for your Caesar. Cardiff City, ride with me for your Caesar. For your Caesar. Cardiff City, get litty for your Caesar. She want a diff boy. Swagger 1 point, yeah, diff boy. She want a diff boy. Swagger 1 point, yeah, diff boy. For your Caesar. Grab a little something for your Caesar. We the geezers. Swagger stone cold like freezers. She want a diff boy. She want Starvz, not Fitzroy. She want a diff boy. She want Starvz, not Fitzroy. She want a big man. Says she want a man from...
Yes, guys, I'm sorry. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Welcome to your post-match reaction show. We're going to get all the way into it. Brian Barry Murphy's young Cardiff City come back from one behind to beat Peterboro United 2-1 in a very interesting game. I'm joined as Aaron Anderson. How are you, mate? You good?
I'm very well, and happy after today's result.
You good?
Living the dream, my friend.
Yes, indeed, mate. Yes, indeed. It was a very enjoyable day's football, I got to say. But what I wanted to start with is Gavin Chesterfield, Darren Pearce, Matt Bloxham, Tom Hutton, and the Tom Ramasalt, the numerous other people who work within the academy system. They deserve a hell of a lot of credit, I believe, tonight, when you have God knows how many academy graduates in that squad today, and not just that, but they absolutely performed. And you're talking, Matt Turner, first team debut in goal. You've got Kapakio has played a handful of games. Dylan Lawler has played 2 first team games. You've got Joel Colwell, first team debut. Eli King, Keane Ashford, Ruben Colwell. The list is endless. Isaac Davis, the list is endless of graduates who either were in the squad, did get on. And I think all of those guys who I mentioned, and of course, all the others that I didn't, deserve a massive amount of credit, because without their work preparing these players, and they do prepare these players for this type of occasion, you're not going to get the result that you get in terms of, and I don't mean the result in terms of winning the game. I mean the result that in 19,500 fans live on Sky, a really loud, great atmosphere in the ground for the likes of, Matt Turner and Kapakio and Joel Colwell to perform at the level that they did, to go one behind against the run of play and still get it back and win. And, they should have probably scored a couple more. To perform at that level is massive. And I believe that we are at a really exciting point for Cardiff City and its fans, because you have this class of players coming through into the first team. But not just that, you have a manager who wants to play them. He wants to give them opportunities. And he wants to play exciting football. And to me, that if you can't get excited about that as a Cardiff City fan, then I don't know what is going to excite you, But how do you feel about it all, mate? And how do you react to what I just said?
It was great, I've seen the team selection this afternoon, and I thought he's very brave. He's a manager that he has the way he's going to set up and play, and you can see he's not picked players on names. It's not, history. It's actually, form and sort of the role that he's looking to achieve, and a few raised eyebrows. But, what I liked about the youth of today is no one sort of shirked away from anything. They were aggressive. They were in your face. They were full of energy. There was a lot of mistakes being had, but you know what? They still tried it, and you can never knock someone for that. And, the patterns of play, the transition, I think, just watching it was a breath of fresh air, and probably something that as Cardiff City fans have been asking for a very, very long time.
So, God, I was just going to add to that and to ask you a question, really. When that team sheet comes out, right? The easy option for Brian Barry Murphy today was to play Alnwick or Halworth in goal, to play Eli King, for instance, in midfield, or even David Turnbull. We'll get to that in a minute, but there was more experienced options in certain positions. You know, you could have gone with a more experienced midfield. You could have had an experienced keeper. First game of the season. It's Brian Barry Murphy's first game. He's under a bit of pressure just because of that. So then to name like a young kid as your keeper and all of the, you know, without Ryan Wintle, I hate to think what that, I don't even know what the average age, because the average age was 22 years old today. You take Ryan Wintle out of that side and that goes down again. So I guess I'm asking, were you nervous when you saw that side or were you excited?
I was nervous defensively, but I have a strange belief that I trust Brian, what he says and does. And for a man to go out and do what he's done, you know, it just speaks for itself, doesn't it? You know, I don't think any of those players that were selected, you know, whether it was Turner in goals or some of the younger players outfield, they didn't look like they were a rabbit in headlights. You know what I mean? They actually excelled in the position, and it's walked away at the end of the game where the fans are actually asking more questions and throwing more praise on than the other way around. You know what? So, you know, kudos and sort of congratulations to the players. And, you know, we've criticised managers over the years for getting it wrong, but my God, I know it's only game one, but Brian's got it right, haven't he?
Yeah, I mean, all you can do is you can base it on the game-by-game basis, isn't it? And you can only say, we'll see. Like, I was a bit baffled by, I saw some people saying, oh, Dylan Lawler wasn't great or this or that. Like, I thought Dylan Lawler on the ball was sensational. Some of the passes that he does, like through the lines, that really open up the game, that other defenders that we have don't have the ability to do. I've also noticed that Will Fish looks a lot more relaxed next to Dylan Lawler. I don't know why, but he just seems to play a bit better with him. And he just looks like he's a bit more relaxed and calm. And I thought Will Fish was really good today. Dylan Lawler, I thought, was in a bit of a predicament because he took a tactical foul on the touchline. He gets a yellow card, you know, a part way through the first half. And then he's on a bit of a knife edge. And, you know, for the penalty, he's probably got lucky that Will Fish makes the challenge that he does. That because I do think that challenge was probably a booking that Dylan makes, and it comes from, I think it was Ryan Wintle has a heavy, or it might have been Joel Bagan, has a heavy touch and it kind of breaks on the edge of the box, and Dylan has to commit because if the striker hits it first time, is a good chance of him hitting the target, so he has to commit. He does make the foul, and then it kind of breaks, and Will Fish, I thought, actually got the ball, but overall it's a penalty, I suppose. But not that I'm going to stick up for this referee, by the way. He did not give us anything all game. But yeah, so I was a little bit confused by people who were sort of a bit critical of Dylan. I thought, you know, I thought defensively he was fine, but on the ball, I thought he does make a really big difference. Obviously, what you get with Jasper Darland compared to Dylan is you get a lot more headers won and things like that because he's a bigger, more physical sort of specimen of a guy. But the thing which made me so happy, mate, was the pressing. The way that we, not just the pressing, the counter pressing and the attempts to recover the ball when we lost it was like you had groups of 3-4 players. Yeah. And it was really, really interesting watching, you know, when their keeper had the ball in the first half, we would stand off and we would just wait for him to give it to one of the defenders. And the second it came off his foot, there was, you know, 3-4 players just on them, and their keeper put it out of play 4 times where he went long because they were scared to play out from the back because our press was so good and so structured, and that's exciting to me because that even in I think it was the 95th minute, I turned to my missus next to me and I said, "It's the 95th minute, we're 2-1 up, we're holding on to a lead, and Isaac Davis has just recovered the ball on the right wing in their half and created a chance or created an opportunity." And I just thought, wow, what a difference in just mentality, because I think last season and the season before, with 20 minutes to go, we're going 5 at the back and we're sitting back and inviting pressure. And I didn't think we invited pressure at any point.
Yeah. I think, you know, for me, that like you just spoke about, the pressing is the pressing in pods for me. You know, there's an aggression, and I don't mean, you know, the force of the tackle, but the willingness and the force to actually get in their face, win that ball high up. And there's also an element of they're dragging the man behind them. So, for example, Ruben today as captain. I think he led more with how he was playing and his aggression in the play than, his vocalness. But just watching certain players that we have criticised over the seasons, the Winters and that, and to be fair, they were on the front foot, and Peterboro are not a bad side. And in the, especially in their final front three, that they can play. And I just think, we looked at the pods, whether it was at the defensive element or further foot up the pitch, I think they were aggressive and great. And if that's the sort of benchmark that Brian sets, then it's going to put a great foundation in for us, for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, Peterboro are stalwarts of, League One, Championship. Historically, they just sort of go up and down between the two. So you expected a tough game. And I thought, particularly in the first half, but a lot of the second half too, I thought we made them look quite poor. They were giving the ball away. They were putting it out in touch. And a lot of that comes from that pressing and how structured and how good it was. Now, Ollie Tanner, I thought, had a really fascinating game. So in the first half, he gets probably 5 or 6 switch balls. Beautiful first touch. Like his first touch was exquisite today. And when he crossed the ball in, he put some really dangerous crosses in, some really good balls. When he played then a little 2 or 3 yard pass for the runners to sort of run in behind, they were a bit loose and they were a bit heavy. So it was like, that was a bit frustrating because it felt like missed opportunities. But I wouldn't criticize him because his work rate throughout was spot on. His attitude, his body language, everything was spot on. All of things that people, including myself, have criticized him for before. And I thought everything which he did encapsulated a team player. Like when we went 1-0 down, he was trying to get everyone, raised and saying, don't worry, because, they know, don't they? They know they've got a young side. And it was difficult, for those young players. I think when we went 1-0 down, I think everybody in the stadium was like, right, how are these young players going to react? Are they going to fall apart and concede another? Or are they going to, remain calm and get back into it? And, obviously we get back into it with a superb goal. But what was your sort of feeling when we went 1-0 down? Were you concerned at what the reaction would be because the side was so young?
No, there was a strange optimism. You were just talking about Tanner then. I think how Brian set him up to hug that touchline was very different than he normally does. But the joy and, in space he had out there was fantastic. But you could just see time's gone by. Cardiff City's conceded a goal and heads drop and people sort of trudge back to the halfway line. There was just a different persona when we conceded that goal. It felt like years ago when you just knew Cardiff City were going to come back and do something, and players were jogging back up. The enthusiasm when that was there, it was almost like a boxer just taking a blind shot. I'm going to come back and for a few more. But it was great, mate. The excitement, the fans, the players. I just think everyone bought into it today, didn't they? And it just didn't feel like any point we were going to lose that game.
Yeah, and another interesting element to it now is I think it's like the worst kept secret ever that we've signed a new keeper. Matt Turner gets his debut today, and I thought he was pretty faultless, really. I thought, and actually, I thought the defense looked really calm. They looked really comfortable giving him the ball as well. There was no sort of reluctance to give him the ball and pass it back to him when needed. I thought he did a pretty good job. So that's going to be fascinating now because you've got, obviously, Jack Alnwick was captain last year for a lot of the time he played. You've got Trotz coming in. And you've still got Howworth, although I do expect Howworth probably to leave. But it's an interesting position now, isn't it? Because all of a sudden, has Matt Turner made himself the first choice?
What I liked with Matt Turner today was the saves were fantastic, but there was the other side of it. It was the shithousery side. There was a couple of moments when players from the attacking team had left a little bit on him, and I don't know if you've seen it during the game, and he'd throw a shoulder back, and he doesn't hide away from that. And, we've seen his celebrations at the derby and that, but he's that sort of keeper that I just love. He's got that wind up about him. He's got that persona that he has a bit of almost an arrogance. And I love to see it. And I think, I questioned him. I'd not seen much of him. And you know what? It was only one performance, but that sort of shot stopping, that natural ability he has. Great. His distribution was pretty good, to be fair. And for a youngster in goal starting, a competitive game, like you said, and many circumstances, he's done phenomenal, to be fair. And it's definitely a position that you can sort of work on. Does that Trot come in now and start? You wouldn't think he would get the nod initially, because you can't take someone out of the team who's had a decent game. During pre-season, he's had a couple of decent outings as well, haven't he? So,
yeah, look, it's certainly going to be interesting, isn't it? What he does with the keeper. Look, Callum Chambers is going to come back in, you'd imagine, on Thursday. He's the captain, so you'd expect him to start. I think it's actually be harsh on Fish or Lawler for them to drop out. And I actually thought that was Darlan's best performance for a while. So you've got kind of three who did all right today. And then obviously you've got the club captain's going to come back in. My personal opinion is you've got to get Chambers and Lawler playing together sooner than later, because they look good together in pre-season. And I think, Dylan Lawler needs to establish himself alongside a partner, whoever that's going to be. It's obviously going to be Chambers, you'd think, because he's the captain, unless they're going to thinking of playing Chambers in midfield, which would be right out of the left field, because he hasn't played in midfield once through the pre-season. But yeah, talk to me a little bit about Joel Colwell. Made his debut for Cardiff City today. He has got a hell of an engine on him, that boy.
Oh, what I like from him is tenacity. That for someone of his build, how he gets stuck in up and down that pitch, the engine on him, the smile on his face, and you know what? He's like an enthusiastic school kid around a school playground, doesn't he? And you can see why he's held in such high self-esteem, with that club. And that's not the end product of Joel Colwell, but wow, what a player we have on our hands. I've always heard different people, comparing him and Ruben as two completely different types of players. But wow, to see them two in midfield today was unreal, wasn't it? And if that's what we're basing our midfield on for the season ahead, just wow.
Well, it's funny, right? A lot of the focus has been on we haven't signed anyone. But what have we lacked in midfield over the last couple of years? I would say is probably a bit of aggression, a bit of mobility, a bit of athleticism. Well, Joel Colwell brings you that. Eli King brings you that. And I think Joel Colwell showed that he's up to this standard today. Mm-hmm. And obviously played on loan in League One and League Two last year. Eli King played in League One last year I think he played 15 games or so. So it's an interesting one. And look, Ryan Wintle deserves credit, because when he came back to the club, I think there was a lot of people who probably wondered whether he'd end up moving on. He'd fallen out with the fans. Then he had the social media post about Errol Bullitt when he was sacked. So you kind of, when he came back from the loan, I think it was almost an assumption that he'll probably move on. But, within a couple of weeks of pre-season starting, a lot of people behind the scenes were saying, he's motivated. He's got a really good attitude. He's doing really well. You saw that in pre-season. And I thought he was pretty faultless today. A couple of little things here and there. But overall, I thought his work rate and his experience and his just letting things tick along, little interceptions here and there, allows Joel Colwell to be everywhere, because Ryan Wintle holds the middle, holds the space, protects the defense. And I just thought overall, I thought the midfield had a real nice blend to it. Captain Colwell, mate, as well. I wanted to mention. I thought, Ruben could have had a hat-trick on another day, because he had the one which he shot from outside the box, which I didn't realize quite how close that was until I saw the replay after the game. And it was literal inches away from the top corner. Obviously, he scored a couple like that in pre-season and then scores the free kick. But he should have done better. I think it was after about 10 minutes or so where it gets pulled back, I think, by Kepaki out to sort of the penalty spot. And he just completely got the connection wrong and it goes wide. Should have probably scored that, really. So, another day, we're talking about a Colwell masterclass, but I thought it wasn't far off anyway. I thought he was excellent.
No, absolutely right, yeah. But no.
The Colwell family will be happy tonight, mate, you'd imagine, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. I think, just breath of fresh air, aren't they? Breath of fresh air. And if he's, an 8 or 9 out of 10 like that today, and like you said, he's missed a couple of sitters and there's been a couple of moments of, not the greatest. Wow, I just think it's an incredible moment, mate. I think we've been waiting for a very long time, and Ruben, we've always spoken about, has this potential. Has he achieved it? Has he not? And we're sort of as a fan base, always some criticize, some applaud, and then you chuck Joel into the mix as well, and you think, wow. And then like everyone's talking already this season, is this season that Ruben will be? It's the make or break season for him, and now he's got the added pressure of being the vice captain, but some games the captain of Cardiff City. And I just think, yes, game one, but there's a tick there and that, and he's excelled in that position, and I think that added responsibility probably goes a long way. He's a fan of the club as well, and he would have probably hurt more than a lot of players last season. And he's going to come back and try and prove a point. Joel's going to be proving a point for many other reasons, and I think many clubs in the Championship would want those two players, let alone League One, and we're quite blessed to have that.
Yeah, and another person I wanted to mention was Roland Capaccio. I think we all know that he's got the technical ability. We all know that he's good going forward. But I thought defensively today he was excellent. He was really, really good. He covered the centre-backs a couple of times in the first half. He was always in the right position. He didn't get physically sort of pushed off the ball or bullied. And I just thought, Roland Capaccio was actually my man of the match, I think. Just off sort of quick memory, I really thought he was that good. And that was pleasing to me because one of the things that I was concerned about with him was his sort of physicality and his defensive side. So to see him do so well today, I thought that was really good. And I wanted to add something on what I said about Tanner and his sort of short passing in the first half. Second half, it was loads better, and the weight of the pass for I think it's the Capaccio goal was just absolutely superb. Like, so that can be anything. That can be a bit of tension, bit of apprehension, just trying to be a bit eager to get the pass into the runners. It's anything. But I thought, as I say, overall, Ollie Tanner was really good. So the question is, mate, Thursday, Port Vale away. If you're Brian Barry Murphy now, do you change that 11?
There's only one thing I would change, and there was something that I picked up on the game today was that I love the balance on the right hand side. I think that Tanner and Capaccio they sort of complemented each other. There was, when you've got a right back that can sort of run past you the way that Capaccio does, he gives that option. But I found on the left hand side today there was quite a few times where Ashford and Begum sort of stood on each other's toes, and there was a couple of breaks that we got caught out on that. And it just lacked a little bit of balance. And I don't know if it was a sort of opportunity where you would probably put a Davis in there just to sort of change it up a little bit. Because I think Begum, is a decent player. I just think Ashford at the minute, I know it's first game, but I think he sort of loitered on from last season where he was just trying to find himself a little bit.
Well, I think actually thought Kean did better last year when he played off the right. I think he looks much more comfortable off the right.
Yeah.
And on that, I wonder whether there was a little bit of protecting Isaac Davis's fitness and his injury history by not starting him. Because I actually thought if anyone was going to start on the left, I thought it would be Isaac. But yeah, I get what you mean. It wasn't quite as fluid, was it, as the right hand side? But I did love that. Both wingers were absolutely like chalk on the boots at all times. So they always had the option to, if there was nothing sort of happening, they could go back and then go across, shift everything across. And like I said, the long passing, you could tell they've worked on that sort of switch ball and then shift across, because I can't think of a long diagonal pass. I can't think of one that went, miles awry. They were all on a sixpence, like so that in itself I think shows that because it's not easy to smash a ball 50 yards and land it in an area like the size of someone's shoulder width apart or whatever. It's difficult to do. So for us to do it that much and do it that well, I think shows that they're working on that as a system.
Yeah, definitely. You could see that Brian liked an overload on that side of the pitch, didn't you? And I think that he was getting quite a lot of joy there. He's a very clever manager, from watching him on the touchline to what he was picking up on that pitch.
Yeah, I think so. Just sort of people talking about the keeper situation in the comments, and I'll bring one up now. Steve says, if Alnwick stays and we sign Trott, I'd rather send Turner out on loan to keep him proven rather than sitting on the bench. So what's interesting about that is last season, Matt Turner, I don't think he barely played a minute of football because he wasn't with the 21s. And he was, first of all, he was covering for Howverth when he was injured. So he was on the bench. And then he was covering for Alnwick. So then he was on the bench for him. So he just ended up never playing any football. Now, I don't think you need to change Turner at the moment. Like, there's no reason to change the goalkeeper on Thursday for me. Even if Trott is even if Trott is the second coming of Neil Alexander, he has to earn his spot and wait for his spot now. And if Matt Turner carries on performing like he did today, then I think he should retain his place. I've seen no reason to change it. And especially because the defense looked quite comfortable with him. So, yeah, that's an interesting one because I do think there's a couple of players in this squad who will go on loan. I think Mafiko will go on loan. I think Giles will go on loan. Maybe Nyakahawa. But it also depends on if we bring any in. If we don't bring any in, then, of course, they're not going to... they're not going to probably go out as much or as many people are going to go out. Was there anything from today's performance which concerned you?
No. I just think, I think I've just seen a comment there about fresh starts, and I think ultimately that's what's had to happen. New manager, new ideas, and also as fans, we have to give everyone a clean slate. We know whether it's a Ryan Wintour, Matt Turner, whoever. I think everyone has that opportunity now, and I think they're there where they are on merit. We've got to trust the manager to pick the right teams for the games. And just touching on what you said, I would personally keep a Turner. I think he deserves to be number one until he does something that, doesn't deserve that. But I don't think he's a bad understudy for any keeper in this league. And you can sort of mix it around with the cups, where he's normally been playing the MG Cup as opposed to. But when you've got other cups, other goalkeepers on the books that are earning the sort of money they're probably earning, it's probably better just to sort of move them on as opposed to, a Matt Turner. I can deal with Trott and Turner for the season. And, won't be unhappy with that as well.
Well, I was pleased when I saw that Turner was in goal because I've said for a while that I'm not convinced by Alnwick or Howverth. So I was like, oh, good. Wow. The managers saw something in Turner and look, Trott may be incredible. He might turn out to be our long-term keeper, and we might sell him for millions in a couple of seasons, but ultimately, like Matt Turner's got to retain his place for me, but the manager will make that decision. And look, as someone just rightly said, we will play harder teams, but also Peterboro are tried and tested at this level. That was a tough game, and to go 1-0 down, against the run of play as well. I think it was massive for us to come back and to get into it like the way we did. And, you've only got to look around and see some of the other results that I think, this league's not going to be easy. Also, excuse me, sorry. I do think, Joel, right, we need a left back, not necessarily to replace Joel Bagan, but I think Joel needs competition to get the best out of him. Because at the moment, he kind of knows he's starting, doesn't he? Because it's like him or Mafiko playing out of position. And ultimately, I think, it's going to be one of them, isn't it? So I think we need to get a left back in to really give him competition. I noticed Perry NG was moving nicely on the touchline today because I was sat. I was right behind the Peterborough bench, right behind Fergie. My missus was laughing. She did a bit of filming for me today throughout the day, and Fergie didn't stop swearing. He was either muttering to himself, angrily swearing, or shouting at his bench because the keeper kept kicking it out. And it was a funny one. Brian Barry Murphy is a real interesting watch as well. So there was a couple of points, right? You've been in the academy system. Let me ask you about this, right? So there was this happened 3 times that I saw. Matt Turner's got the ball at his feet. Peterborough are not pressing. They're sort of stood off on the edge of the box. So Matt Turner's stood there with the ball at his feet, waiting. The manager shouts, hold, 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 really, really loudly. He's telling him, hold, 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 hold. And what you see is Ruben comes over to the left with the winger. And then all of a sudden, Barry Murphy shouted blue bell and just whistled. And they stuck a ball over to the left, right in, like Turner just went straight away, hit it over to the left. Ruben got a flicker on, and the winger ran onto it. And I was like, that seems like a plan where they're going to hold it, and teams get frustrated because they don't want the keeper to waste time, and then they kind of get sucked in, and they overloaded that left hand side. Now I could have been imagining it, but it was the fact that I saw it like a couple of times, and I was like, oh, okay. And he's constantly talking to all of the players, constantly. Yeah, so that was an interesting one. But what was it? The other one was when Chris Willock did a lot of defensive work when he came on in the last couple of minutes. There was one where he tracked his runner, and then he ends up sort of winning the ball, and it goes out for a throw-in. And while the Peterborough player was down, Willock was stood on the halfway line, right by the touchline, and Barry Murphy gave him like a handshake and a pat on the back, and he was really encouraging and appreciative of the fact that Willock had not just switched off and just sort of stayed, in his left wing position. He'd gone back to help Joel Bagan. Not so happy with Callum Robinson about 5 minutes later, but we'll leave that for now. It was interesting. I also saw Ruben Colwell dish out his first bollocking as captain in the 95th minute, which was really, really interesting to see because I've never seen him so animated. Like I love the view I've got. I can see like everything, so it's great. What excited you the most from today? Like when you look back on that game, not so much in the moment, but when you look at it and you go, "Whoa, that's going to be good this year." What is the one thing that jumps to your mind straight away?
You've just touched on it a little bit. It's that pattern of play. So I think what we've gone now is that I think we have players that are given a lot of freedom to do what they need to do, but they're doing it within a structure. And you would have seen some of the passing triangles, some of those little flicks, some of those little getting out of tight spaces. And I just like that we're able to express ourselves now. We're able to play. And as a football fan, no matter what club you support, you just want to be able to get off your seat. You want to enjoy the moment. That's what you're there for, And so at some points today, it was just like, it's that excitement, that buzz was back. And just watching those couple of little moments, Capaccio had a few, Ruben had a few, and I was just like, once or twice it didn't come off. I think Capaccio had a moment where he tried to take someone on and go, but I'm not going to shout about that because, I really enjoyed it. And, you're probably going to win more than you lose having those moments. But you know what? It's probably one of the few seasons for a very long time. You're going to remember a lot of moments as opposed to, head in hands and thing. But no, it's that excitement. I walked away from the stadium and I walked away with the children and they were really excited. And, it was not talking about Premier League footballs. It was talking about, actually, you know what? Ruben, Daddy's my player because I love this and I want to go and do a bit of that in school. And I was like, you know what? That's what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%, mate. A couple of questions for you. Well, me. Halftime Oranges says, did we give Salic enough service today? I would say no. There was a few times in the first half where I thought we could have put crosses in and we didn't. But interested in what you think.
No, I think that we did great to get into the forward areas, but I think the ball then, not the ball coming in, I think at the speed of the ball, I think they did well to handle Salic. When you're up top on your own, it can be quite a lonely place, and their centre halves were big messy buggers, weren't they? To be fair, But I think we've just got to sort of probably be a bit more smarter around those areas. But I think Salic speaks for himself. When he will get goals irrelevant at this league. It's just trying to create that space. But like I said, we created a lot of space down those flanks. It was just there was a few cutbacks when Ruben followed on it. For Salic was there. I think it's the net, doesn't it? So I'm not worried about it.
No,
I don't think there was enough today, but we can't criticise that after that sort of performance as well, can we?
Yeah, average age is 22, mate. That's what I keep telling myself as well. Like, they're only going to get better as the season progresses. You've still got Alex Robertson to come back. You've still got David Turnbull, who we're going to talk about in a second. You know, you've still got Eli King, that, you know, played a little role today, but I'm sure he'll play a role as the season goes on. Got club captain to come back in as well. So it's all encouraging stuff. Lee says, who did Ruben have a go at? Ruben had a go at Callum Robinson. He was just being a bit, what's the word? Lethargic with his defensive work, should we say, when we were sort of in the last couple of minutes. But, you know, that's okay. It's part and parcel of it. So this is an interesting one. I'm fascinated by this, honestly, because I just don't see it. But I'll be interested in what you and other people think of. Maybe I'm seeing it wrong. Jamie says, don't blow smoke up their asses. Fish was awful. We should have had a red card. Lawler was awful, along with one of my faves, Fish. Both played shite. Wake up. Like, I just don't see that at all. Like, not even, like, I can understand why people think Lawler wasn't as good as he's been, you know, previously, but I still thought on the ball he was excellent. He won some great tackles. He won some, you know, some really good defensive areas where he was one-on-one and he comes away with the ball. It's an all-round thing. After he got booked, it was different. And, you know, the red card, you are right. He would have got sent off if they give the free kick for it, if he doesn't play the advantage. But that comes from a bad pass from someone else, and he has to commit. If he doesn't commit, it's a free shot on goal from inside the edge of the box. So I just think, and I thought Fish won a lot of headers. He did a lot of the more physical defending, and he did it all right. Like, at no point was I worried that Peterboro were going to score. Like, at no point was I like, heart in my mouth, they're going to score here. Even when Capaccio got ganged up on in the corner towards the end and they cut it back across, I still felt that Fish or Wintle or Darland or someone was going to get a block in. But yeah, tell me, people in the chat, because I don't see that at all. Like, I understand people thinking that they weren't at their best, but awful, I just don't see it at all. Like,
in my opinion, I think that, you know, I think they took him off to protect him. I thought, you know, he had a very good game. He's very tidy, but we also have to take into consideration he's a very young man. And, you know, League One's a division where you're playing against some big strikers who throw their weight around, and it's a completely different ball game to some of the Championship. And I think, you know, he battled well. You know, yes, he made that mistake for that thing, but he didn't shirk away from anything. And for a young man to put his body, you know, where a lot of people don't do it, you know what? He did well. And, you know, he was always picking up the ball on the front foot. He was always carrying it. And for someone that young, he didn't have the greatest of games, absolutely. I don't think he did anything overly bad. You know, Fish, I think what Fish did very well today, he carried the ball into midfield. You know, there was a few times where Wintle sat in for him and he carried it and he liked to run past that. And we keep talking about every week about having a dog on the touchline or on the pitch that puts their body on. I think Fish was that today. And he's not that sort of player. But, you know, I think he stepped into that role and did pretty well, you know. And it was another one that, for centre halves wise, you know, they created a lot from the back. They set a platform and they were nice and neat and tidy. You know, a lot of what we were trying to do came through them. So, you know, that side of it. And, you know, they're two young guys against the sort of one of the more physical teams of the league. So I'm not overly against that. And, you know, Darland brings what Darland brings. He's that dog that we require sometimes. And we need that in games where someone's going to put their body on the line. It doesn't look pretty, but you know what? He does a job. And I think, you know, they all have credit, but all have credit for three different sort of roles, if that makes sense. You know, Darland for that sort of more defensive element of it when we needed it. But then it was down to the manager. The manager selected the right players. He knew when to pull off, you know, the youngster Lawler. So, you know.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, I thought, like, Dylan, the one thing which I think Dylan Lawler, and I said this a bit earlier, the one thing which Dylan Lawler gives us that the other defenders don't, is his passing. Like, he's able to, there was a ball he played where he was sort of in the inside right in our own half in the first half. And, you know, the easy ball was to go back to Fish or to go to the fullback. And he played like a 20-yard pass through the eye of a needle into Joel Colwell's feet. And Joel sort of flicked it off first time. And we were up the pitch. And it was all because of this one pass through the lines. And I think that passing ability is going to be a real tool going forward to open teams up with those little triangles and those little one team plays. But look, I welcome all opinions. He also added that I don't know if he's saying Cardiff were lucky or got lucky, because I thought we outplayed Peterborough. Like I said, I didn't think Peterborough were very good. And I thought we should have scored another couple, really, or at least another one. And he said Olitana was his man of the match. Who was your man of the match, Aaron?
Capaccio.
Yeah, Capaccio or Ruben, I thought, although Joel Colwell was probably up there as well, just for the sheer amount of ground that he covered.
I think for me, I have the expectation that Ruben does this and he will do it every game and he carries that team. But just for someone put in that position to score that sort of goal, and he just goes about his business. And I thought that winger that he was up against, it was quite a tidy winger.
Yeah, that was he up against Adoa, or was that the other side? I forget now. Adoa's a good player. Like, he scored a few goals. He was actually linked with us earlier right at the start of the window.
And he kept him quiet. He did everything he was needed of him, very tidy. And it was just his enthusiasm. So I just thought, to step into that pressure, I thought, well done to the lad.
And like Fisherman says there, decent start. If this is the regular side, there will be some bumps in the road, but it was promising for sure. And I think that's what you've got to bear in mind is when you've got a side that has an average age of 22, consistency is going to be the issue. And that is where you need your Wintles, your Chambers, your Rubens, Isaac Davis, Callum Robinson, Yusuf Salic, the slightly more experienced lads. That's when you need them to really step up, because there will be days and weeks where Lawler, Capaccio, Joel Colwell, etc. will have off days, because that's part of being a young player, is that you haven't got the consistency yet and you're still sort of learning on the job. So look, you got to remember, it's easy to forget how young that side was. Dan says Yusuf Salic did miss a sitter with that one header from Tanner's cross, so headed it right at the keeper. It was basically a free header, so that was a shame. Yeah, either side, and it's a goal, isn't it? And it's just unfortunate that he hit it straight. And I thought Yusuf battled, but didn't get the rub of the green. I don't think he got one free kick all game, which is insane. But, probably not one of his better games. But I thought his link-up play was decent enough, and he battled for everything that, any loose balls, and he's pressing. Like, he chases everything. He's the trigger point for the press, and he traces everything, lost causes, he gambles. So I'm not worried whatsoever about Yusuf Salic coming good or sort of scoring or whatever. But what did you think of Salic's performance, mate?
I think that there's evidence there to show that it's a player learning a new transition of style of play. I think, Salic, when he came under Omar, we'd play slightly different to this. So there's a clear foundation there that he's evolving and growing into a style of play, and it takes time, like we've said across the board. And you've also got to think, I don't think he's probably had many games like that where he's taken that much of a knock and a kick with no protection from that referee, and it probably got into his head a little bit. He probably thought, what's the bloody point, But I think, he did his job, and okay, he didn't get the goal and he had that one chance. But, he's had a chance there. He's also, set the foundation for the press. So, he's done his job and he's going to score more goals, this season. I think it was just one of those sort of games. You just got to get through it, haven't you?
Yeah, I just wanted 3 points today, just to start the season on a positive note, because we, I just feel like we haven't won a football match for a long time. So it's like, it was important just to get a win. It's going to be fascinating, some of the selections that, that Brian Barry Murphy's going to have. Obviously, David Turnbull, I think, is back within the group Monday. A few people asked me beforehand to talk about it. All that I was able to sort of garner, I sent a few texts out to ask the question. I was told that he had been late, and I had told that his attitude hadn't been where it should be, and that was all the details I was given, or that I was told. I have no idea if anything else has gone on or if anything's happened. Aaron, I don't know if you've heard anything on top of that, but it happens. what I am happy to see is that Brian Barry Murphy isn't just about giving these young players belief and getting behind them and instilling, that confidence in these young players to go and play, but he also expects standards, and he's also got that disciplinarian side to him, because I'm sure he would have preferred to have David Turnbull in the squad today, but he didn't. And David Turnbull's got to earn his way back in now, because he's got Joel Colwell, he's got Eli King, he's got Ryan Wintle, he's got Ruben Colwell, Mafiko. He's got others who were in the squad ahead of him and didn't let the side down. So he's got to show now that he's got to have that attitude improvement.
You're absolutely right there. Without saying too much, there's an expectation and a minimum standard that manager expects. And if people don't achieve that for a multitude of reasons, then consequences are the consequences. And it doesn't matter who you are in that squad. There's no passengers. And you know what? It also sets the tone for the rest of the squad, because he's a seasoned player, and an experienced player. So the players that are coming up and looking up to people like him will learn from that, won't they?
Yeah, absolutely. They will look at that and go, right, well, the young players will look at it and be like, I need to make sure that, I'm on time and I've got a right attitude and all the rest of these things, because I don't want to be outside the squad.
And I'm sure you'll be hurting as well, because that would have been a great game to be part of today. The atmosphere was fantastic. The way the game set up, and it's going to take a couple of games to knock some of these players out of those positions, especially in the sort of the area he plays on the pitch. And to top that off as well, potential incomings as well. You don't want to be out of that squad for too long, do you?
Yeah, and I think it's one of them. And look, I think if the manager's happy to sort of move on from it and go with, he's had his punishment as such, and as long as he comes back, David Turnbull has to come back, and he has to get his head down, and he has to really show, that he's going to have the right attitude and the right mentality. Because like you said, there's going to be no passengers, and there is competition now, because Joel Colwell has laid down a marker for the sort of the busy, aggressive, moving, mobile midfield position. Ryan Wintle sat down a marker for the number 6 position, looking absolutely, very, very good at that. And Ruben Colwell has set down a marker for the number 10, or the more aggressive midfielder. So with that in mind, David Turnbull has to earn his way in, and he's not going to get there through any sort of, or he was good last year, or this or that. And the same with Alex Robertson, by the way. Alex Robertson obviously had the stitches in his leg and stuff. Assuming that he's back for Port Vale, he will have to earn his way in. He will have to fight to be in the squad first of all, and then to be in the 11 after that, because there was a few who was out of the squad today. So you had David Turnbull, Alex Robertson, Howverth, Louis Giles, Will Spears, and Nayakawa. Is that all of them? I'm trying to think if there's any others. So I would expect Louis Giles. I think Louis Giles is going to go on loan. Nayakawa, I thought, was a little bit unfortunate actually to not be on the bench. Obviously, Alex Robertson not fit. Howverth, it was always going to be one or the other. Turnbull was whatever happened with Turnbull. So it'll be interesting if any of those players come in on Thursday to the squad, who drops out, because we had some youngsters on the bench today. So would you maybe Mafiko drops off the bench and Alex Robertson comes in, for instance. But I thought Eli King did all right when he came on. What did you make of the subs, actually? So you had Eli King, Callum Robinson, and Jesper Darland.
In my opinion, I think he made the subs at the right time. We always used to question Omar's subs, didn't we?
The timing of them and stuff like that, wasn't it?
You can see that time when he sort of brought Lawler off, it was the right sort of time, because how they started to change their setup and they were chasing the game. I think with Robbo, it was sort of just trying to get that extra goal just to kill the game. And obviously there's that little bit of a knock. I liked how he brought Eli on that and just trying to tie the game over, keep it smooth and keeping the ball, which we've not had that many before. Normally with managers, it was just hump it and just sort of set up store. But Brian didn't allow that. It was still play the way we play. It was still transition. It was still get everyone up the pitch. And so, normally we're great at throwing criticism at manager substitutions, but I think he got it right today, and I was very happy with that.
Yeah, and I mean Callum Robinson should score as well. By the way, Ruben put it on a plate for him, and he'll be disappointed with that because that's for someone of his finishing standards. I think that's a pretty relatively simple finish, and obviously you've got Perry NG to come back in as well. So whilst this team was average age 22. You've got the club captain in Callum Chambers. You've got Perry NG both to come in. That gives you a little bit more experience. But I mean, if Perry NG is fit and 100% ready and he's up to speed for Thursday, would you drop Roland Capacchio for Perry NG?
No.
What you could do is play Perry NG off the left, though, because he's he can play left or right. So I suppose you have that option. But I don't think I wouldn't change it either. I think, I think I'd bring Chambers in. So here's a question for the chat. If we assume Chambers is going to start, being as he's the club captain, who would your partner at the centre-back be for the Port Vale game? And I'll ask that question to you, mate, as well. Go on.
It would be Fish. The only reason I say that, I don't think it's that Lawler's done any worse. I just think that bit of experience, and I just think that it's just two people that complement each other. And I think Fish just brings something slightly more at this moment in time. And I just like that sort of dog. And I think Fish has got that bit of pace and just that bit more of understanding. I think that's probably what Chambers sometimes lacks, is that reading of the game sometimes. I just think it works together. But, even if you put a Lawler in there, I wouldn't be against that either. I know he's young and he's made a few mistakes, but he's got to be in that position to get where he needs to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think ultimately the sooner you can get him and Lawler playing together is probably for the best, because I would guess that'll be the partnership, going forward into the season. But look, Peterborough were a lot worse than what I thought they were going to be, because they do have a couple of good attacking players. Defensively, they're not great, but. And like I said, they're tried and tested at this sort of level, aren't they? So you expected a tough game. And I do think, it was a hard game. Do I think we should have won 3-1, 4-1? Yeah, I do, because I didn't think Peterborough could created anything. They changed their shape slightly towards the end of the game, which gave us a little bit more trouble. But, to be honest with you, I thought they got a bit of encouragement after Callum Robinson's chance. They seem to just pick up a bit of, we could pinch one here and we're still in it sort of thing. So that was interesting. But Darren Moore, who's the manager of Port Vale, is an excellent manager. I really rate him. And Port Vale away will be difficult. So, I'm sure the manager will look at it from a selection and a formation and tactical point of view to try and get the right balance. Someone in the chat will be able to tell me, who could tell me the Port Vale result from today or this weekend, because I do not know, because I haven't had a chance to look. But mate, are you looking forward to the Port Vale game?
Well, absolutely. I think at the end of the day, irrelevant to who you're playing, you've got to enjoy it. You've got to win it. And I think we've probably got some of the most exciting players in the league. Okay, we haven't spent the millions of pounds like some of the clubs have to attract what we've got, but name any team in our league that wouldn't want to have any of our players. Very exciting, to do a scout report on some of our youngsters. You'd be watching the 23 games, So very exciting, and the enthusiasm that they bring. Even if we go a goal behind, you just expect so much from this team at the moment, and you've got to beat who's in front of you at the end of the day, haven't you? So Port Vale or Huddersfield, whoever it is, just got to go in with the same sort of ethos. And there's something about Brian, I just don't know what it is, but he's just
I told you, didn't I? I did tell you, mate, when they were all talking about it. Like, he is, he's just someone who you can buy into. Like, I really do believe that, and I believe that if Cardiff City can sort of keep him around for 2-3 years, I really believe that Cardiff City as a team and a club will be in a better place down at the end of that period. But it remains to be seen, of course. So I think it'll be interesting because I do think he'll rotate a little bit on Thursday because I just think away from home, you have to set up a bit different. So my predicted team for today, I had Wintle and Eli King in the midfield too. I would have thought that would be the two away from home, but I can't see how you drop Joel Colwell after that performance today, both on and off the ball. How could you possibly drop him?
No, he won't.
So it becomes a question, and does he have to change his role a little bit and play a bit deeper? Does he put King in there? Does he move Joel Colwell to that fullback position and kind of try and do it that way? I'm really interested by it because I think even though we haven't brought the players in, I kind of interested because I do think we've got a lot of flexibility in the way we set up. So it's interesting. Do you think we'll get any players in, by the way, before the end of the window, apart from Trott?
Yes. I would hazard another 3.
Winger, left back, centre back.
It's a very fluid one, and I was talking to a few people down the ground today regarding this because we sit there and we say on game 1, this is what we think we need, and it changes again. Who would have sat here this morning and said that actually Matt Turner could do a job? Who would have said that actually Wintle looks like he actually fits back into it? It's very interesting, and I would love to pay a penny for Brian's thoughts on certain parts of this now, because he's in a conundrum now where he's going to be bringing in a goalkeeper who we'd expect to be number 1, yet you've still got two goalkeepers that were number 1s, plus a Turner that's actually stepping into a role very well. So you're going to have to look to offload a couple there. Then you've got the other element that you would expect Wintle to have moved on, and you're probably looking at a new 6. Now he's not doing so bad. So how does that work out? There's a couple of positions I'd like to see and probably strengthen ever so slightly. But, like Brian said the other day, it's quality in it. That's what we're lacking. So, if he signs a bit of quality, it can only benefit us.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if we don't get at least a left back, because I always think it's a risk when you've got a player in any position who hasn't got competition. So you haven't got someone pushing to just pushing them to get the best out of themselves or to be at their best. But yeah, look, it's interesting to say the least. So tomorrow lunchtime, we'll have 5 things we learned from today's game. Tomorrow night, we have the breakdown. I am trying to get a guest on for tomorrow night. However, no such luck at the moment, but I'm still working on it. If not, we'll have the usual tactical breakdown and we'll talk about the meetings and stuff that went on today. And we'll just dig into all of it. And as is the breakdown, isn't it? So you've got to break down everything. But yeah. Give me some score predictions in the comments on this video. Let me know what you think the score will be against Port Vale on that narrow pitch. And Thursday night, no less. What's that about? Not a fan of that at all. Thursday night football. Not a fan of that at all. Is there anyone apart from Callum Chambers who you'd bring in for Thursday? So what did you say? You said you'd bring in Isaac for Keane Ashford. Was that what you said?
I'd also bring that youngster on the bench as well, that winger.
Naya Kahawa. Yeah, I think that's a good option away from home to have someone who's direct and skillful. But then who'd you drop? That's the problem, isn't it? Who'd you drop? Because I don't think anyone within that squad today, I don't think any of them deserve to be dropped, really. You could argue with the players who didn't play, but I mean, they haven't done anything wrong, have they?
No, I'd have an opinion, but that would just be an opinion of a name just for shape. It wouldn't be because they played poor,
So Sav says Robinson and Davis for Salic and Ashford. No way would I play Callum Robinson ahead of Yusuf Salic on Thursday after today's performance as well. I wouldn't.
So Callum would be the guy that I would probably take out the squad.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like, it's just opinions. Like, everyone's got different opinions.
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed with his work rate today at all. Like, I gotta say, but when there was only a goal in it, I thought he could have done a bit more at certain times. But look, first game of the season, all that mattered was 3 points ultimately. And I think, poor old Jamie Bayer, he's not having a good time. I don't think he's not happy at all. He says the breakdown is we got saved by the ref regarding the red card, only a penalty awarded. The game would have been a different result. Oh, very negative today, Jamie. Come on, man. 3 points. We haven't won a guy. When was the last time we won on the opening day of the season as well?
Norwich, right? Norwich at home.
How long ago was that?
My God, that was a few years ago. That was when Allsop was in goals.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Like Johnny's just said there is a good point. It also depends how some of the young players recover, because it is a different level and a different physicality. Like Joel had a bit of cramp, didn't he, towards the end when he came off. So maybe you've got to take that into account. But
I think Port Vale will be an absolute battle when it's a smaller pitch, evening game. How Darren Moore likes to set up his teams. It's going to be more of a battle than it would have been today on a big, expansive, sunny pitch.
Indeed, mate. And then on the 12th of August, we've got the trip Swindon coming down. I'm looking forward to that as well. I am going to trying to work out with my missus and my son today whether we're going to do Luton or Wimbledon away. And we've had a slight disagreement about that because Wimbledon falls on my missus's 40th birthday and she wants to do that one. And I want to do Luton because I've never been there. And but it's her birthday, so I'm assuming we're going to be doing Wimbledon. But I'm looking forward to it. Really am looking forward to it. I haven't been to either ground either, so it's another one to tick off the list. Are you doing any away trips coming up, mate?
It all depends. It all depends on work commitments.
Kids, work,
family. Yeah. But I'd love to get back on the away days with my brother. But it's all work commitments and family life at the moment. It was just nice to get down there today.
Yeah, I was just looking then. Paul threw me in the chat. He said, I was trying to find a comment. He completely threw me, and I started questioning myself. He said, keep Salich fit for the league games, so change it up. And I was like, Port Vale is a league game, isn't it? And then in my head, I was going around and I was thinking, is it? So, I was getting really confused. Yeah, Port Vale is league. Then we got another game Saturday, and then next week on the 12th, isn't it? That is, or the week after, is Swindon away in the cup. When's that? That's the League Cup, though, isn't it? The Swindon game, is that right?
Not sure.
Or is it the Dominoes, whatever it is, Dominoes Cup? Yeah, we got a lot of tournaments this year. I'm sure we'll see some youngsters. I actually think that it's the EFL Cup. So when does the Dominoes Cup start? Is it a Dominoes? I call it the Dominoes Cup. I don't know what it's actually called. So with that, just very quickly, mate, before we finish, because we are going to finish now because I need a toilet. With the Dominoes Cup or whatever it's called, I will remember it one day. What sort of youngsters would you like to see get a chance in that competition?
I would like a few. However, I think this is the sort of year, especially with the different cups that we've probably never been in. I'd like to have a couple of cup runs.
Indeed.
We want like a trip to Wembley and that. But I think even some of the youngsters, they're not far away from our first team, are they? I think it'd be more a rotation of fresh legs, and we're talking about a new number one. Matt Turner deserves a run in the cup. We're talking about enquires on the wing. We're talking about the likes of Joel. There's players out there that they're not really far from being in the first team. Starting lineup, let alone it'd be great to have the Lawlers, the sort of Eli Kings, but
I'd like to see, I would love to see like a Manny Barton or a De Bono get a chance. Like De Bono really impressed me the other day for the 21s.
Yeah,
it's such a shame that Matthew Apter got injured last night, and it looks like a long-term one. Because I tell you something, I said to a friend of mine that if he continues to play at the level he's playing for the next few weeks or the next couple of months, I could really see him getting. I could see him being in the first team squad by the end of the season. Really impressed me with his physical side, but also his technical side. So I'm really gutted for him because I think he would one who might get a chance at one of those, one of the games or the trophies and stuff. So Apter. So I thought Apter was a defensive midfielder. Josh just asked. But he's definitely more box to box. The way he played against Merthyr when I done the commentary, he was so good, and he was good on the ball as well. So a real shame that he's picked up that injury yesterday because, yeah, he's been looking good. Anyway, mate, as always, been a great pleasure. A bit of a different one for us today. There's a reason why I don't do these post-match shows. I'm too emotional. I'm glad we won. Otherwise, it could have been a very different show. No, it's been exciting stuff. Exciting day. Like, if you're a Cardiff City fan and you can't get excited by seeing how many academy players in the squad today, like, do you know what? I'm going to even count it up. I sent it to you. Did I send it to you or did I send it to someone? But like, off the top of your head, how many academy players were in the squad today? Can you work it out before I bring up the side?
No, I would have guessed probably 8 or 9.
So you've got Turner, Capaccio, Lawler, Bagan, Joel Colwell, Ruben Colwell, Ollie Tanner. Does he count as an academy graduate? I'm not sure he does. Ashford, Mafiko, Eli King, Isaac Davis. So 9 academy players in the matchday squad. Like, if you can't be excited about that as a Cardiff City fan, I don't know what else to say. And by the way, that's without Naya Kahawa, Louis Giles, and the others who missed out. So, yeah, really exciting for Cardiff. It's going to be a long season. There's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, and you've got to just stick with these young players, support them when they do have an off day. And, hopefully we can get a couple in, and the likes of your Wintle and Chambers and stuff and NG can help those young players just get better, because I think it gets better, mate, after today. Like, I can only see the likes of Joel Colwell and Co getting better as they get more accustomed to this level and playing for Cardiff City.
Absolutely agree. And the more time that the gaffer has with them, well,
exciting times, mate. Thank you so much, as always. And we will be back probably next week, me and Aaron. I'll be back in the morning for 5 things you've learned. I appreciate everyone in the chat. And we'll see you next. Well, see you tomorrow. But also, Cardiff City, first game of the season, 3 points, 2-1, 9 academy players in the squad. What more do you want?
Rascal Beats.
For your Caesar. Cardiff City, ride with me for your Caesar.